Hello and welcome to the Honest Podcast. We're talking all things Ayr United Football Club, on the pitch, off the pitch. We're going into all sorts of previously unknown areas. Rob McLean here. Niall Kavanagh is alongside me from the University of the West of Scotland. Keep me right, asking all the perceptive questions, to be perfectly honest. Our guests today are top Ayr United striker. That was just for the benefit of George Oakley. Anton Dowds is here, and the chairman is here. Davy Smith is with us as well. So we're going to be talking on the pitch, off the pitch, and really just wherever the conversation goes. Anton, I was working out 5 months now since you suffered that horrendous injury against Partick Thistle. Does it feel like 5 years?
Yeah, it's been a long 5 months. The different stages of the rehab mean that you're almost like in each stage for 3 months on its own. So getting through each stage itself is a bit of a milestone, but we're getting there towards the second 3 month period, and hopefully we're back running and joining in with some aspect of training in the not too far distant future.
Davey, it was a nightmare for Anton, but it was also a nightmare for the club, wasn't it? Because he was flying. I think it was 9 goals in 11 games at the start of the season. Did I get that? He's nodding. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
If it was 10, you'd have told me, wouldn't you?
It was a tough one. It was a tough one for the club. I think it was a tough one from a human point of view. It was difficult. So when we saw it in real time, we thought it's not great because nobody was close by. And then I remember getting a message the next day, I think, from Graham or Stevie saying that it might not be as bad. And then we got the bad news after that. So, yeah, it was a really tough one to take because, we were flying. The two guys up front were immense. We were in great shape and we were banging goals in left, right and centre. But I think the kind of, pardon the pun, the knee-jerk reaction from me was to make sure they knew we would look after them and make sure everything was okay. So that kind of human part of running an organisation and a company kind of kicks in after that. And although it was disappointing, we just want to make sure he was okay after that.
And obviously, Anton, you want to do everything right, don't you? You want to get everything right from surgery onwards through rehab and make sure that when you come back, you're in the best possible condition. How far are you down that road?
Yeah, so the minute the injury happened, obviously at the time there was a discussion straight afterwards whether or not we were hoping it wasn't going to be too bad at all. If it was at one point looking at a case of weeks, but then once you get the scan and the real bad news does come through that, look, you've got an ACL, which isn't one that any footballer wants to hear. You then, I guess from my own perspective, I sort of really kicked into, right, okay, what's the next stages? How do we sort of formulate a plan for this going forward? And that started with finding the best surgeon and speaking to loads of different people, speaking to loads of different clubs to find out who's had good experiences, bad experiences, just to try and find the widest array of experiences. And from that, we landed on the Fortius Clinic down in London. So from there, you're obviously apprehensive, and you, as a footballer, the natural instinct is to always just get back as quickly as possible. But for this one, it's almost like a bit of a project management. And right, we need to speak to a few people and make sure that we've gone with the right person. And thankfully, when you go down and speak to the people down at Fortius, you know, even before you speak to your surgeon, you walk in the building and it's nearly got every football player that they've ever operated on. Football strip up on the wall. So
greatest hits up on the wall.
Exactly. So straight away you're sort of put a wee bit at ease, because if there's players like Neymar, Van Dijk going to this clinic to get their knee looked at, then you feel you're in the best place possible. And it was a case of how quickly can we get this done, and thankfully with the support of the club we managed to get the knee operated in within about 2 weeks, which is a lot quicker than some people can be waiting. And since then, because we've gone with that clinic, I've almost had every couple of week updates with the surgeon, whether that be going down to London for sort of visual and actual testing, or whether he'd be free on a Friday for a Zoom call just to let him know sort of how I'm feeling and how I am mentally with the next stage. And it just helps me sort of formulate a plan. I find that with rehab, especially one as long as this, I need to know a game plan. So I'm hitting certain targets. If I'm not hitting them, why not? and how do we like resurrect and make sure that we get back on track.
Keeping away from Selfridges is one of them, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I must ask you, Anton, when you're out injured, what is the hardest part of being out injured? Is it missing the game on a Saturday, and how do you deal with being out?
I feel that obviously being injured for any footballer is the worst possible thing that could happen, because I'm sure I've probably been a bit of a hindrance to everyone else in round about the building, in the sense that when it comes to game day, I'm probably more of a nuisance than I've ever been before, because I'm sort of bouncing about, trying to keep myself occupied, and I'm probably sitting next to the chairman today, but he's probably heard me quite a bit in the last 5 months shouting, whether that be sort of just out of pure frustration. You just want the team to do so well, and you feel that, especially with the start that we had to the season, that you feel that if you were out there, you could hopefully contribute to the team's to fortune. But that's something you sort of need to come to terms with, and well, definitely, I know when I come back, I'll be much more appreciative and grateful probably of my time on the pitch. And if anything, you need to address this 9 months as an opportunity to get better, and there's aspects of my game that I've addressed, and I've thought, right, okay, how do I get more powerful, how do I get stronger, faster for when I come back? I'll hopefully take my game to another level.
Since your injury, you've been getting quite hands-on with the media stuff at United. Are you going for Rob's job at all? Is that what the plan is?
I think he's got it.
I think I wouldn't. It's not just yet. But it's been a great aspect of something that's given me another thing to do on game day. You know, I've made a big thing of, from the minute I've been out of my crutches, I've wanted to be in the building every single day, just so I'm almost got a routine back to my life, and that means I can see the boys every day and sort of get that aspect of the changing room chat and find out, so you don't feel as disconnected, and being able to, I'd be going to the games anyway to help out at the home games. It's just something else that I've learnt to really enjoy, and if I can commentate and help out the guys in any way, I've really enjoyed it, and I'm very appreciative of the offer.
Yeah, you've just been a bit too good, unfortunately. if you could watch that, Davy Anton, speaking about shouting and screaming during football matches, how does the chairman manage to divide that up in his head between being the chairman and behaving as a chairman should? I'm not quite sure what that means. And an Ayr fan, which you've been your entire life.
It can be challenging. Yeah, I think on match day during the game, I'm like every other fan. I'll shout and I'll swear and I'll be disappointed and I'll be elated, and that's just the nature of being a football fan, isn't it? But in terms of separating the two, I can separate the two. So there's very much a business part to the organisation, and I think I've always been able to separate the two. The club needs to be sustainable, and if we take a risk or have a pitch at something, then it's a calculated risk. So I think I've done that okay so far. I have to say, the last couple of weeks I found the loss on Saturday against Livingston really tough to get through. I actually had a bit of a family weekend, and I was as miserable as sin all weekend after it. So we take it hard, as all the other fans do as well. So, but I think I do a reasonable job of separating the two. I don't. The worst shouts are Graham Matthews from the director's box, and he's really posh. So I don't know if he'll shout "wow" a lot of times at referees' decisions and stuff like that.
That's poor, isn't it?
It's really rubbish. Actually,
He's got to do better than that.
Yeah. We'll have a word.
Where are the team at the moment in terms of compared to where you thought they would be at this stage? We're coming towards the end of February as we record this. As you said, Livingston game was the last game. Where did you think Ayr would be, and compared to where we are?
Well, I think where we thought we'd be round about the top three. But that's kind of where we started off the season. We wanted to be in the playoffs. We did find a little bit extra investment for the playing budget, so we felt with the management team we've got, with the people infrastructure we've got in the building that we didn't have before, we thought top three around about this time would be a good position to be in. So I'm pretty happy with that, although I'm still fucking raging about Livingston. But anyway,
I mean, I asked this to Graham Matthew in the first of these podcasts as well. What is success? Come the end of the season, what would success be in your head for this season?
Ultimately, success would be promotion. I think it's really challenging to get through the playoffs. So winning the league would be the best thing that's ever happened in my career.
But is anything less than that success?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just being competitive at the top end.
Getting into playoffs would be a success for me, I think, this season. So, I think I think there's more measurements to success though. That you're talking about player, sort of team results and where we are in the league. There's more to that than success at Ayr United. So, making it sustainable, making sure we don't lose, a lot of money, and if we do, we've taken a risk on it. I think having the community programs and stuff like that is really important. Having the successes that's going to build on for future years, like the North Stand, like the land at the back. So there's lots and lots of things you can measure success on in a business, not just the results on the park.
Is the North Stand already starting to pay itself back?
It'll take a while to pay itself back, but we had the board meeting yesterday. We looked at the P&L accounts for the North Stand, and the turnover per month is getting to where we thought it would be. I think George, our hospitality manager, is doing an excellent job. I think of all the people that have been through the hospitality, I think we've had 2 emails of people who weren't very happy, and when Martin went back to one person, he kind of went, you're probably right enough, I was being a bit harsh. So I think that's really good. So I'm delighted with the North Stand. I'm delighted with the performance. Delighted with the feedback. So I think it's doing exactly what we wanted it to do.
So if the club were to get promoted, how would you make sure that the club were able to fit in with the demands of being a Premiership club?
Okay, so I think behind the scenes we do an awful lot of work. So Graham Matthew was kind of tasked with doing a bit of work on this. So he went round every department at the football club and said, look, what does Premier League look like in your world, in your department? So we have a kind of hit list of what we would like to do. We have a list of what we would need to do. We have a list of priorities like any other organisation or business. So we know what it would look like. We know what we'd need to do. Certainly people infrastructure is something that we probably need to look at very quickly, and we don't have a huge amount of time if we were to get promoted to do that. There's a bit of building infrastructure we'd like to do. We don't need to do it, but we'd like to do it. So we've got a plan, and I think as I say, we had the board meeting yesterday, and as we get towards the real business end of the season, if there's something we need to trigger early and there's a chance of going up, we'll do it. So
obviously, you were on fire, Anton, at the start of the season with your 9 goals. You're nodding again, so I've got that right again. You've been overtaken recently by George Oakley and Jay. We've got about, I think, 29 between them. But are you happy that you've still got the best hair at the club?
Yeah, I think that's without a doubt. It's something I've been growing all season and worked hard towards it. So look forward to keeping it long and for my return coming back.
I noticed you were a wee bit concerned that the headphones might sort of interfere with it, but I think you've got through it so far. And Davey, you with the headphones on, it was bringing back memories of being up with Fraser McIntyre and Air Force One, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it's slightly less scary, but I always like Fraser with the plane, to be honest. So kind of favourite away day is heading up to Inverness on the plane, and we'll stay over and hit Johnny Fox's later on, and then come back down on the Sunday. And actually, if it's really well, we'll phone home and say the weather's rubbish, we'll need to stay an extra day and fly back on the Monday. So we've done that once or twice as well. So, although
it might be a while before you two are in the same division.
I think
again,
so. Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. But go and. Do you know what? It's an amazing thing to go and watch your football club and your mates playing at the weekend. It's the stuff sort of dreams are made of, to be honest. So, and he's not bad at a pilot actually. He's all right. So
all right.
He keeps you nice and calm and things like that. So he had a heart attack a wee while ago. That's always been a bit of an issue for me when we're playing. If he takes a wee turn, and
yeah. Could you take over the controls?
Do you know, I've been up so many times. I reckon I could land it, to be honest. Yeah. I think I could land it. He might not be able to fly it again, but I think I could land it.
Yeah. What about George and Jay? I mean, they've been a good partnership. I know you pointed out in your interview on the socials with George Oakley that you did a lot more running than Jay does, which was obviously questionable. But they made a massive contribution up there, those two.
Yeah, I think obviously since my injury, the team have done an unbelievable job of responding to the gaffer's change of formation, and going to the 3-5-2 with Jay and George through the middle has worked up an absolute treat for the team, because Jay doesn't play like your traditional striker, because he pops off, goes into pockets, he causes havoc, he's dragging players all over the shop, and if anything it's leaving George probably more isolated against one defender, which knows George's qualities of his strength and his power, that if he's left 1v1 with somebody in a tight area, they're probably not going to get the ball off him. So I feel the relationship those two have struck has been brilliant, and a real aspect to why the team's been such great form.
So Rob's touched on obviously your 9 goals this season. See, as a striker, see at the start of the season, do you ever set yourself a target on how many goals you want to score in the season?
Yeah, I think when you start, you always want to try and hit double figures, and you want to score as many as you can, and you usually get a feel for it once you've played a few games, and you're like, obviously it's a dream to score 30 goals in a season, and unfortunately, that was the sort of aim once I'd hit sort of about 10. I think I had 11 goal contributions, so a few assists as well, and I was like, well, if I can get to 30 goals and assists, because I got 20 the year before, so I can hit 30, then that's another great season. And last year I didn't play actually all the games because I arrived a wee bit later and then couldn't play against Partick Thistle, so I thought it was a good target for me. And once you start playing a few games, you start seeing the amount of chances we were creating at the start of the season, and you're like, well, let's just try and hit this as quickly as possible, then we'll readdress and see how many goals and assists we really can get, because at that point, every time we went on the pitch, it felt like we were going to score 3, 4, 5 goals. And that was just the free-flowing attacking football that we were playing at the time. The high press was working really well for us in that formation. So we're winning the ball back closer to their goal, which for any striker means it's a lot easier to get in good positions. And the way the team was playing made not only myself, but George at the time very confident every time we stepped on that pitch we were going to score.
Did you hear that dig, Niall, that he had at me that I didn't mention his assists as well?
Goals and assists,
it's got to be total contributions, hasn't it? Yeah, that was very subtle the way you crowbarred that one in, to be honest.
So I think the fans will be quite keen to know about this one. Would you be able to give us a timeline at all of when we might next see you in a Ayr United shirt? Think it'll be this season or think it'll be next?
Yeah, so I think the sort of severity of the injury, you're very rarely coming back any earlier than 9 months, which unfortunately is just after the end of the season for me. So with that in mind, it's when you get this sort of injury, that's if everything goes to plan perfectly, it's best almost to just park the season and not sort of torment yourself with the idea of racing back for a game or two, because if it happens and you end up from all the studying I've been doing on the injury, if you come back any other than 9 months, every month you come back early, you've got a 50% greater chance of re-rupturing your knee.
Wow.
And it's probably because people are rushing you too early and you're not hitting the objectives when the knee's ready. You're more hitting it trying to fit a timeline. So I've sort of came to terms with, I don't think I'll play again this season. And I feel like that's probably better for me in my headspace, just to sort of have that parked, and look, if something was to happen, it's not a case of I'm not trying any harder in the gym. I'm in the gym every day for about 3 hours, try to just build strength in the leg, just try to get it back to where it was beforehand, doing all the sort of functional movement, because you need to learn how to walk, how to jog again. There's loads of sort of aspects to this injury that it just takes time. So I'd be hoping to be back ready to go for a full pre-season. So I know that coming into the pre-season I'm ready to go. So when I'm back playing competitive games, I'm no further behind anyone else in the team.
Have you found out stuff about yourself in the course of all this?
Yeah, definitely. I feel that since this injury, I feel I'm quite good at dealing with things. The minute I found it, obviously it's devastating news, but I feel like, right, okay, how I deal with things now is, right, I need to figure out the best way to move forward to this. That's through reading, studying, everyone that has recently came back from an ACL, everyone who's doing things at the same time, checking what Rodri's doing, checking what Bremer's doing, Carvajal's doing, check their Instagram, sort of their reports, try to see right where they are with their rehab, because they're a similar time frame to me. They're at Real Madrid and Juventus and Man City, so obviously the facilities they've got on tap are just ridiculous. But it's like, okay, well, that's the best in the world and that's their rehab programme. How do I follow that? What's the rehab programme that they're following that I can follow as well? So we follow something called the Melbourne Protocol, which has recently provided the best results for ACL return. And we've not got every piece of equipment, because these pieces of equipment are absolutely tens of thousands of pounds, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't follow it to the best of our ability. And if there's something that we need to look at else externally, then that's something I've been really sort of strict with the club, and sort of said, look, I don't want us not doing the right thing because we're not got the Man City rehab unit. If this is the best way for us to do things, then this is the way I want to do it, because this is how people are returning better than ever from their ACLs. People, you look at Van Dijk, you'd have never thought he had an ACL and he was out for a year. And the fact that you see things like Rodri recently got put in the Champions League squad for Man City, but then Pep came out and said, look, he won't make it before the end of the season. So it's sort of, not that you want to obviously not see him play football, but you're like, well, if he's struggling to get back in the same time frame any quicker than me, then it sort of gives sort of realisation to what you're doing, and it sort of backs the evidence of what you've got to in the place that you're at right now.
So you become a control freak, basically, because you have to control what's happening to your body.
I think if you spoke to my family or if you spoke to my girlfriend, she would probably tell you I was a control freak in the first place. But now I'm probably, I feel like I'm very hands-on and just want to know everything possible about the ACL and the injury, and whether that's through studying it and reading all the journal papers and following the best people in the game, then that's what it takes.
Davey, we spoke about the North Stand. Your other recent major purchase was that 8 acres behind the railway end, and you stupidly asked people to come up with their suggestions of what you might do with that land. I know you had a few sort of outlandish suggestions of what you might be doing.
I think there's no stupid ideas, right? So I need to start off with that. So, but there's maybe ideas that are out with our grasp. So there's been a few good ones.
Like moving a railway station?
Railway station was one, New Bridge was another one. There's been quite a few. But we actually had, we set up a wee steering group, so we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. Stevie Denham's working on the master plan, which kind of started to include the 2 infills of the North Stand as well. So we've got that space we need to develop. So it's been really good. Everybody contributed really well. So I've got some bad news for you though. So Scott wants a hill. He wants a hill that everybody can run up.
Oh no!
Just saying.
Okay, well, look, there's other priorities to the steering group, I'm sure. So if that's further down the list after my career, then we can deal with that in 10 years' time.
Listeners of a certain age might remember the Gullen sands that Jock Wallace, when he was the Rangers manager, used to plough the players up and down. Is it something along those lines that he's thinking about?
Similar, actually. He wants everybody's calves like that. So, I think I thought it was a great idea, and we need to get rid of some soil. So the hill's going in early, to be fair. So.
But you're dead excited, Davey, aren't you, about what can be done?
Yeah, I think it is exciting. So it took a long time to get it sorted out. So. And there's lots and lots of jigsaw pieces to development. Probably don't realise it, but even building the hub in a position, it did kind of close the access point into that land. So there's only like a 5 metre wide road. So that probably reduces the value of the land. Getting the car park, there was originally going to be a master plan with a suds basin in there to deal with the water. And getting a car park is another jigsaw piece, and chips away at it. Doing a site investigation, and it's heavily contaminated. Chips away at it. Buying the land at the other side where the North Stand is, and closing off that access. So it's not. It was all part of a pretty long term strategy. And see, to be fair, the biggest thing that I can say about the company that sold it, Deutsche Bahn, was they bought into what we are as a community. So that allowed us to get to a number that was sort of palatable for me. So all the other bits and pieces kind of chipped away at it, but the bottom line was they felt strongly about what we do in the community and how we can get the very best for sort of North Ayr and Ayrshire out of the space, and that kind of what clinched it. So
yeah, it sounds exciting, doesn't it now?
Definitely. So I've got one last question for you. We asked Graham Matty quite a similar question. Where would you think a realistic target for the club to be in 2 to 3 years' time, in a 2 to 3 year time scale period?
It's a difficult one, because if I say it, it gets cast back up to me quite regularly. Albeit, I think when I first took over as chairman, I got quite a lot of negative comments for the first season, and then it's been sort of decent after that. So I don't like putting my neck on the line with these things. So ultimately, we want to get promoted. Ultimately, we want to be a Premier League team. And that opens up all sorts of stuff for us, the academy, for our infrastructure, for our community. So that's the goal, that's the aim, that's where we want to be. That would be a huge success. But see, at the same time, if we are at the top end of the championship, challenging for the next couple of years, that's not a bad place to be either.
Well, that's been another 25 minutes that has absolutely flown by. So thanks to Davey and thanks to Anton as well. And good luck to both of you. One with getting some sensible suggestions for behind the railway end, and which you've had already, obviously. And good luck in your continuing recovery and rehab, Anton. And look forward to seeing you back out in the pitch as soon as is humanly possible. Yeah, so this has been the February edition of The Honest podcast. There are details of how to view it if you've been listening to it. It's a co-production between Ayr United Football Club, University of the West of Scotland, and we will talk to you next time.